My sister said I didn't deserve my bonus since I had no kids, then demanded I fund her life. So I walked away, and what I revealed left them speechless. I'm 32 male and work as a project manager at a tech firm in Seattle. I've been climbing the corporate ladder since I was 24, starting as a junior coordinator and working my way up. I'm the type of guy who rescues failing implementations, turns chaos into order, and generally makes things happen when nobody else can. It's stressful, but pays well, and I've always been good at handling pressure. I've been on my own since my divorce about 4 years ago, after my ex-wife, Jennifer, cheated with her work friend while I was busting my ass to pay for her fertility treatments. Yeah, that hurt. We'd been trying for kids for 3 years. Appointments, tests, injections, the whole nightmare. All while I was building my career to give us the future we wanted. Then I found the texts. It was a Tuesday night. I remember because I'd stayed late at work finishing a project plan, came home exhausted, and picked up Jennifer's phone by mistake when mine died. The lock screen lit up with a message preview from Mike from marketing that said, "Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow." Game over. The divorce wrecked me financially and emotionally. I lost the house we'd bought together in a nice neighborhood and had to move into a downtown condo half the size. I spent nearly $30,000 on lawyers because she fought for assets she never contributed to, all while dealing with the fact that the future I'd planned, kids, family, home, the whole deal, was gone. The thing is, I haven't really talked to my biological family in about 2 years. Not after how they treated me during the divorce. Zero support. My sister Melissa kept saying things like, "Well, maybe if you weren't working so much," or "there must have been signs you missed." Real helpful when your life's falling apart. I wasn't completely cut off. Melissa still called me regularly, not to check on me, but whenever her kids needed something, she and her alcoholic husband, who I'll call Todd, couldn't afford. See, Todd's a deadbeat who spends half their income on his hobbies while pretending to work late. Melissa knows I know, but we never talk about it directly. "Dave, Emma needs new soccer cleats. The school requires them by next week. Dave Aiden's class is going on this field trip, and I'm short $200. Dave, the kid's dentist isn't covered by our insurance anymore. Can you help?" Each time I'd transfer the money, no questions asked. Because despite everything, those were my nieces and nephew, and they shouldn't suffer because their dad's a loser and their mom can't budget for anything. Just last month, she called at 11 p.m. on a work night. "Dave, you awake?" She had that fake worried voice she uses when she wants money. "I am now," I said, sitting up in bed. "What's wrong?" "It's Lily's birthday next weekend, and we promised her that big Lego set. But Todd's commission check didn't come through." "How much?" I cut in, already reaching for my laptop. "It's $180 plus tax. But Dave, I swear I'll pay you back when." "It's fine," I said. "Consider it her present from me." I transferred the money while still on the phone. "You're a lifesaver, seriously," she said. Then, as always, we should get together soon. The kids miss their uncle, but that soon never came unless she needed something else. Anyway, my Aunt Patty's been trying to get me back in the family loop for months. They miss you, Dave. Family is everything. All that stuff. She's the only decent one, honestly. After dodging about 6 family gatherings, I finally caved and agreed to come to Thanksgiving at my parents' place in Portland. Big mistake. I drove the 3 hours down, already dreading every minute of it. I brought a fancy gift set for my dad and some flowers for my mom, like I was some lost kid trying to earn a spot back at the table with a few peace offerings. It felt ridiculous, but I did it anyway. The house was packed. My parents, sister, and her husband Todd with their 3 kids, my brother and his wife, Aunt Patty, Uncle Jim, and a few cousins, the works. Everyone was being fake nice, asking surface-level questions about my job, while eyeing me like I'm some kind of alien because I'm the only single adult there. Todd was already checked out when I arrived, glued to football on TV and ignoring his kids. Melissa shot me a look that said, "Don't mention it," when he barely acknowledged my arrival. Some things never change. Dinner was going fine until my mom asked about work. I mentioned how my team had crushed this massive software implementation project for a Fortune 500 client, the kind of project that makes careers. We'd rescued it after another team botched the initial setup, worked insane hours for 3 months straight, and pulled off what the client VP called a damn miracle. His words, not mine. The client was so happy they approved a performance bonus for everyone on the team. I explained how much when my dad asked, suddenly interested. He'd always been fixated on my earnings, like they were a scoreboard of my worth. About $18,000 after taxes, I said, not trying to brag, just answering the question. That's when my sister Melissa's eyes lit up like a slot machine that just hit the jackpot. Must be nice, she said, cutting her turkey with more force than necessary. Having all that extra cash with zero responsibilities. I laughed it off. I wouldn't say zero responsibilities. The project was brutal. Oh, please, she interrupted. You don't even have real bills. No kids, no real house payment on that bachelor pad condo. Meanwhile, Aiden needs braces and Emma's. Dance classes are killing us, and Lily needs a new laptop for school. The table got quiet. I could feel everyone watching, like it was some tennis match, and the ball was in my court. What exactly are you saying, Mel? I asked, keeping my voice level while taking a long sip of water. She put down her fork. I'm saying you don't need that money. It's just sitting in your account collecting dust while we're struggling with actual family expenses. We have real needs, Dave. Then she doubled down, crossing her arms and leaning forward. You know you should just set up an automatic thing for the kids' expenses. I'm tired of having to call and ask every time. You should just pay and help without me even asking. That's what family does. I looked around the table, waiting for someone, anyone, to tell her how inappropriate she was being. Instead, my mom nodded like Melissa was speaking pure wisdom. Honey, your sister does have 3 children. College funds aren't going to save themselves. My dad jumped in. Dave, you're single. You don't understand what it's like having kids depending on you. Your money's just sitting there. Family helps family. I sat there, stunned, fork frozen halfway to my mouth. These people had no idea that I'd been quietly paying their homeowner's insurance for the last 5 years after Dad got laid off and never found equivalent work. No idea I'd covered Melissa's car payment twice last year when she called crying about overdraft fees. No idea I was still dealing with debt from the fertility treatments my ex and I went through before she decided to sleep with someone else. They'd never once asked how I was doing after finding my wife in bed with another man. Never acknowledged that I lost the future I'd worked for. Just kept treating me like some kind of failed human because I didn't have kids. I'd always been the responsible one, the one who got good grades, never got in trouble. Started working at 16 while Melissa partied through college on my parents' dime. Dropped out, got pregnant, and suddenly became the golden child because she produced grandkids. You know what? I said quietly, pushing my plate away. I think I'm done with dinner, my mom asked, eyebrows raised in concern that looked completely fake. With all of this, everyone was staring at me now. My sister had this smug look, like she'd won something. My brother Mike was suddenly very interested in his mashed potatoes, avoiding eye contact. Classic Mike, never takes a side until he knows which way the wind is blowing. What's that supposed to mean? My dad asked, his voice taking on that authoritative tone he used when we were kids, and stepped out of line. I took a slow sip of water, buying time, deciding how much truth to drop on this table. Part of me wanted to just walk out, avoid the drama, but something inside me had snapped. Maybe it was all the late nights at work. Maybe it was seeing Todd sitting there useless while Melissa demanded my money. Whatever it was, I was done holding back. It means I'm tired of being treated like an ATM with legs, I said finally. Melissa, you want to know where my money goes? A third of it goes to paying off the fertility treatments your nieces and nephews would have had if my marriage hadn't imploded. Treatments nobody in this family even bothered to ask about. The room got real quiet. You could hear the football game from the living room TV. Another chunk goes to Mom and Dad's homeowner's insurance. Been paying that for 5 years now. Oh, You didn't know? I said, looking at their shocked faces. Yeah, Dad called me crying after he lost his job at 57, said they might lose the house if they couldn't cover the insurance. I've been auto-paying it ever since. My mom's face went white. My dad started to say something, but I wasn't done, not by a long shot. And Melissa, remember last March when your account was overdrawn and you called me panicking about the car being repossessed? That was $4,200. December before that was $30,700 for Todd's emergency dental work because you guys let your insurance lapse. I looked directly at Todd, who was suddenly very interested in the pattern on his dinner plate. Not to mention the $6,300 I've sent in the last 8 months alone for all the kids. Emergencies while your husband here blows half your household. Income on his hobbies. Todd's head snapped up. Melissa's face went pale. Oh yeah, I know all about it. I'm not stupid, but I paid anyway because those kids deserve better than what they're getting. Melissa's husband, Todd, looked like he might get up and leave. Apparently she'd told him her parents helped with most of that stuff. His face was a mix of embarrassment and anger. Not at me, but at the fact that his failures were being aired. Publicly. None of you ever asked how I was doing when Jennifer left. None of you checked if I was okay when I had to sell the house we bought for our future family. You just kept calling when you needed money, using the fact that I don't have kids as some kind of moral high ground to make me feel guilty. Aunt Patty put her hand on my arm. Dave, honey, we didn't know. That's the point, I said. None of you bothered to know. You just saw me as the lonely single guy with cash to spare. And now Melissa wants me to set up automatic payments so she doesn't even have to pretend to care when she needs money. That's rich. My brother finally spoke up. Come on, Dave. I'm sure she didn't mean. Don't. I cut him off. Just don't. You've never had my back, so don't pretend to start now. I stood up from the table, the legs of my chair scraping loudly on the hardwood floor. So yes, Melissa, I do have a bonus coming. And no, you're not getting a penny of it. Neither is anyone else at this table. Dave, you're overreacting. My mom started using her let's all calm down voice that never worked, even when we were kids. Tell me one time in the last 4 years that any of you called me for something other than money or tech support. One time, no one said anything. The silence was deafening. Exactly, I said, grabbing my jacket from the back of the chair. Thanks for dinner. I won't be back. Melissa stood up, knocking over her wine glass. So that's it. You're just going to walk out on Thanksgiving? What about the kids? They were looking forward to seeing their uncle. I looked at her 3 kids, who were, what about the kids? They were looking forward to seeing their uncle. I looked at her 3 kids, who were sitting at the kids' table in the kitchen, oblivious to the adult drama. I'd brought them each gifts, video games for the older 2, a stuffed animal for the youngest. Good stuff, not cheap crap. The gifts are in my car. I'll leave them on the porch on my way out. And with that, I walked out, ignoring my mom's tearful pleas and my dad's angry. Don't you walk away from this table, young man. But I wasn't a young man anymore. I was 32, successful, and finally done being everyone's backup plan. I didn't sleep that night, just drove back to Seattle in a daze. This weird calm settling over me, like when you finally admit something's dead. And you can stop pretending. I cranked heavy metal the whole drive home, old school metallic. The kind of angry thrashing sound that matched the storm in my head. By the time I pulled into my building's garage at 1 a.m., I'd gone from shocked to pissed to ice-cold determined. Back at my condo, I fired up my laptop and started methodically cutting them off. First, I called my bank's 24-hour line and moved my money to new accounts at a different institution. Then I logged in to all my bill pay services, Portland Gas and Electric, $247 monthly to my parents' house, canceled. Verizon Family Plan with 6 lines, $412 monthly, canceled. Homeowners Insurance, $189 monthly, canceled. Auto transfer to my sister's account on the 15th of each month, $300, canceled. I'd been spending over $1,100 a month on these people for years. Money they took for granted while treating me like I was selfish for having it. Next, I pulled up the document folder where I kept all the loan records. I'm a project manager. I document everything, even when it's family. My sister had borrowed over $42,000 in the last 3 years. My parents almost $30,000. None of it ever repaid. I printed everything, including the terms they'd agreed to each time, payable upon request. Then I drafted a simple legal letter, with my attorney's help, stating that while I was forgiving the existing debts, all financial support was hereby terminated. I took a picture of my new motorcycle key. I'd been saving up for a Ducati Monster for years, but kept putting it off, because someone in the family always needed money first. Time to live for me. I texted myself, setting a reminder to visit the dealership next week. My phone blew up the next morning. First, my mom, Dave, there's something wrong with our internet and the bill pay. Then my dad, son, did you change? The insurance payment. Then Melissa, what the hell, Dave? My phone's not working. I didn't answer any of them, just kept working. Had lunch with my team, went to the gym after work like normal. Hit the weights hard, pushing myself until my muscles screamed, letting the physical pain drown out the noise in my head. That night, the voicemails started. Mom crying, Dad threatening, Melissa alternating between rage and begging. I listened to each one once, then deleted them. No response. 3 days later, Melissa showed up at my condo, pounding on the door like she was trying to break it down. I know you're in there. Open the freaking door. I opened it calmly. She looked terrible. Hair messy, eyes red, wearing the same Oregon Ducks hoodie she'd had since college. How could you do this? She screamed, pushing past me into the living room. Emma's school called because her lunch account is empty. The cable's shut off. Todd's car got repossessed this morning. Just watched her, feeling nothing. No guilt, no anger. Just done. I'd expected to feel something. Satisfaction maybe, or at least righteous anger. But there was just this cold emptiness where my family obligations used to be. That must be difficult, I said, crossing my arms and leaning against the wall. Difficult. It's impossible. We can't pay all these bills. You know that? No, I don't know that. You and Todd make over $140,000 combined. Your house payment is reasonable. You have new cars. Take vacations. Your kids have every gadget on the market. You're not poor, Melissa. You're just terrible with money. And Todd's spending habits aren't helping. Don't you dare bring that up, she hissed. You have no idea what I'm dealing with. I've been paying for what you're dealing with for years, I replied. And at Thanksgiving, you had the nerve to demand I set up automatic payments so you wouldn't even have to pretend to be grateful anymore. She paced around my living room, glaring at the new 65-inch old TV I'd bought myself after the project wrapped. So this is how you spend your money. On toys for yourself while your family struggles. Yes, Melissa, on myself. Novel concept. I know. She started crying then. That manipulative crying she'd done since we were kids. The kind that always got her out of trouble. The kids need new clothes for school. Mom and Dad are panicking about the insurance. Please, Dave, we're family. I walked to my office, retrieved an envelope, and handed it to her. What's this? Your independence package, I said. Congratulations. She opened it, finding the legal letter forgiving her debts and formally ending financial support, along with printouts of every transfer, every payment, every loan with her signature. You can't do this, she whispered, flipping through the pages. I already have. Now get out of my home. We're your family. No, I said, holding the door open. You're people who share my DNA, who see me as nothing but a wallet. There's a difference. She stood there for a moment, clutching the papers, her face a mix of disbelief and panic. Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the pictures on my wall rattled. I locked the deadbolt, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself 2 fingers of scotch. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. After Melissa left, I knew they wouldn't give up easily, so I went nuclear. I changed my number, email, and social media. But unlike what they might have expected, I didn't run. This was my city, my life. I wasn't going anywhere. Instead, I upgraded my building security, changed the locks, installed cameras, and told the front desk not to allow any family members up. Then I blocked them all. Parents, Melissa. Extended. Family who might leak info. Everyone except Aunt Patty. I also took a week off work, not to hide, but to reset. I bought that Ducati monster I'd been eyeing. Matte black, 937cc engine. The kind of bike that turns heads and scares soccer moms. Dropped $16,000 cash. No financing. The dealer's eyes nearly popped out of his head when I paid in full. The first ride on that beast was almost spiritual. I cut through mountain roads outside Seattle, leaning into curves, the engine growling beneath me. Nothing but me, the machine, and the road. No family drama, no expectations, no guilt, just power and freedom. I rode until sunset, stopped at a viewpoint overlooking the city, and watched the lights come on as darkness fell. For the first time in forever, I felt like I was living my own life. At work, I channeled all that anger into productivity, got laser-focused, started coming in earlier, leaving later, pouring myself into projects instead of family drama. My boss noticed. "Whatever's lit a fire under you, keep it burning," he said after I salvaged another failing project 3 weeks ahead of schedule. 3 months after cutting contact, I got promoted to senior program manager with a 30% salary bump. I bought myself a limited edition mechanical watch, sleek, timeless, and built to last. Just for me, not to impress anyone, not to share it with people who only saw me as a wallet. Just a reminder that I earned this, every second of it. With all the money I wasn't spending on my family's problems. I renovated my condo, new kitchen with black granite countertops and high-end appliances, Brazilian hardwood floors, custom office setup with dual ultra-wide monitors, and the kind of ergonomic chair that costs more than some people's monthly rent. I bought a Peloton, not because I needed it, but because I could. I started investing seriously, building wealth instead of distributing it. Without their constant needs and demands, I had time for me. I joined a kickboxing gym, not the fancy boutique kind, but a gritty place with real fighters and heavy bags that smelled like sweat and leather. I started hiking on weekends, made actual friends, people who wanted my company, not my wallet. One Saturday morning, I ran into my neighbor, a cool guy named Ryan, who works as an architect. We got talking about my bike, and he mentioned he rode too. Next thing I know, we're planning weekend rides, hitting up mountain roads with a group of other riders, just guys being guys, no complications. It was like I'd been carrying around this massive weight for years and suddenly dropped it. The relief was incredible. For the first time since my divorce, maybe longer, I felt light, free. Aunt Patty kept me updated. My parents had to downsize to an apartment when they couldn't cover their bills. Melissa and Todd were fighting constantly about money. Their marriage was on the rocks. "Todd's spending is worse," she told me during our monthly calls. "And Melissa keeps asking where all the money went. Like she can't understand why her backup plan disappeared." "And what do you tell them?" I asked. "That you're doing exactly what you should be doing, taking care of yourself for once." I did sometimes wonder about the kids. They weren't responsible for their parents' mistakes, but I knew if I helped them even a little, Melissa would see it as an opening to suck me back in completely. "The kids are okay," Aunt Patty assured me, seeming to read my thoughts. Melissa's had to get more creative with budgeting. They don't have all the fancy stuff anymore, but it's probably better for them in the long run. She was right. I couldn't save everyone, and sometimes the best lesson for kids is seeing their parents face consequences. 6 months into my newfound freedom, I met this Czech woman, Elise. Not her real name, but she wanted me to use it, laughing at my kickboxing gym. She was fierce, independent, worked as a pediatric surgeon. The first thing I noticed, besides her looks, was the way she absolutely destroyed the heavy bag. Perfect form, unrelenting focus, zero care about the guys watching. After class, I saw her struggling with her gear bag while checking her phone. I offered to help. She looked me up and down and said, "I can manage my own bag, but you can buy." Me a protein shake if you want. Direct, no games. I was hooked immediately. Dating in your 30s after divorce is different. You don't waste time. You know what matters. 3 months in, things were serious. I told her everything about my family situation one night while we were making dinner at my place. They treated you like an endless resource, she said, chopping vegetables with surgical precision. Treated you like an endless resource, she said, chopping vegetables with surgical precision. That's not love. That's exploitation. With Elise, I found what a real partnership felt like. We split checks. We each paid our own bills. When we decided to move in together after a year, we created a fair system for shared expenses. Basic adult stuff my family had never grasped. She had her own money, her own career, her own life. She didn't need me to rescue her or fund her lifestyle. She wanted me for me. It was revolutionary. Our life together fell into an easy rhythm. Morning workouts before work, weekend motorcycle rides when weather permitted. She rode a Triumph Street Triple, handled it like a pro. Quiet nights with good food and better conversation. Life was good, peaceful. Then Aunt Patty called with news. Your sister found your Instagram. She saw the photos of your renovated condo and that new motorcycle. They know you're thriving. 2 days later, the emails started hitting my work. Address, the only one they could still reach. First, my mom. We miss you so much. Son, please come home for Christmas. Then my dad. We miss you so much. Son, please come home for Christmas. Then my dad. The family's not the same without you. Finally, Melissa. The kids ask about Uncle Dave all the time. I didn't respond to any of them. Their sudden interest in my existence conveniently coincided with discovering I was doing well financially. The final straw came when they showed up at my workplace unannounced. I was in a meeting when my assistant messaged, "Your parents and sister are in the lobby. Should I send them up?" "Absolutely not," I replied. "Tell them I'm unavailable." I left through the back entrance that day, called security to have them removed. When they refused to leave, it hardened my heart even further. That night, Elise held me as I processed the invasion. "They're desperate," she said. "They lost their safety net and can't accept it." "I just want them to leave me alone," I said. "Then we need to show them you're better without them, that their tactics won't work," she said. She was right. I wasn't hiding anymore. The next day, I posted a picture on Instagram of Elise and me on our motorcycles, mountains in the background, with the hashtag living my best life. It was petty maybe, but satisfying. Let them see what they've lost. Recently, Elise and I got engaged. No big production. Just a private moment on a cliff overlooking the Pacific during a weekend getaway. We bought a house in a nice neighborhood with a yard and a home office. Modern design, clean lines, huge windows overlooking a ravine. Had actual savings, actual security, actual peace. Then Easter happened. Elise and I had planned a barbecue. With friends, I'd spent the morning smoking brisket on my new Traeger grill. A little hobby I'd picked up now that I had time for such things. Our backyard was filled with people who actually cared about us. No strings attached. Ryan and his wife were there, along with some colleagues from work and friends from the kickboxing gym. The kind of solid people who celebrate your successes, instead of trying to profit from them. I was at the grill when the doorbell rang. Elise went to answer it, then came back looking concerned. "It's your family," she said quietly. I handed the tongs to Ryan and walked through the house. There they were, my parents and Melissa, standing on my porch. My dad looked older, grayer. My mom was crying. Melissa had porch. My dad looked older, grayer. My mom was crying. Melissa had that familiar look of entitlement mixed with desperation. "Surprise," my mom said weakly. I stared at them, feeling nothing but irritation at the invasion. "How did you find my address?" I asked. "Your aunt," my dad said. "We begged her, told her it was an emergency." I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. Through the windows, they could see my backyard full of laughing people. The grill smoking, the life I'd built without them. "You have 2 minutes," I said, checking my watch. A tag hewer I'd bought myself after landing a major client. My dad tried first. "Son, we've been doing a lot of thinking. We know we took you for granted. We want to make things right. We miss you." My mom, "We want to make things right. We miss you." My mom added, "The family isn't whole without you." I noticed. "Todd wasn't with them. Where's your husband?" "Ah," I asked Melissa, already bracing for the usual excuse. She looked away. "We're separated. He's not around anymore, finally, under different circumstances." I might have felt something, anything. But I was too far gone. The emotional bridge had burned, collapsed, and been bulldozed for a parking lot. Before I could respond, I heard a car door slam like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Todd, of course. He strolled up like he'd just won custody of the moral high ground, still wearing that faded sports jacket he thinks makes him look important. "Oh, look," I said deadpan. "It's Mr. Full-Time Hobby's part-time husband." He narrowed his eyes. "Cute. Real cute, Dave. You think you're something special now? Just leaving your family to fend for themselves?" I laughed once. I was genuinely enjoying the show. You say fend for themselves, like Melissa didn't spend the last decade calling me every time your paycheck went missing or your passion projects went over budget. Remind me, how'd that drone racing league investment turn out? T puffed up arms, crossed, leaning into his indignation like it made him taller. "You abandoned us. Melissa's drowning. The kids are—" I cut him off with a raised hand. "Stop. Just stop. You're not about to paint yourself as the victim here, Todd. You're the background noise in Melissa's crisis calls. The guy who thought providing meant sharing your Netflix login." He opened his mouth. I didn't let him get the chance. "You know what your legacy is, Todd? You spent 10 years teaching your kids that being loud is the same as being right. Congrats. Let's see how that works out." When the lights get shut off and the car disappears from the driveway, he flinched, just slightly, then glared like he wanted to say something clever, but you could see the internal buffering going on. "Look," I added, voice flat. "I've got records, spreadsheets, timestamp transfers, every help us just this once email. $6,308 months for things you should have handled. That dental emergency you claimed was covered. That was me. A teen's laptop, me. Todd's accidental overdraft. Yeah, also me." He didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared, trying to figure out how to recover from being publicly dismantled without shouting. "You were never a husband, Todd, just a professional. Excuse generator with a part-time attitude. And now you're here because you thought I'd cave again. Sorry, man. Budget cuts." I turned back to Melissa, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the porch tiles. "And you?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "What's your emergency this time?" She shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I know I messed up, but we're blood. You can't just throw that away. The kids miss you. They don't understand why Uncle Dave disappeared." I leaned against the porch railing, arms crossed. They didn't look like a family. They looked like a failed startup begging a former investor for another round of funding. "You know what's interesting?" I said slowly. "In the 2 years before I cut contact, not one of you called to ask how I was doing. Not once. But now that I've got a life, a partner, and a front yard you can't walk into without checking in at the gate, now I'm suddenly family again. Now that Todd's out of the picture and the finances are circling the drain, I'm worth tracking down. That's not fair." My dad jumped in. "No," I said. "It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair when Melissa blew up at Thanksgiving, demanding direct deposits like I'm a trust fund with a heartbeat. It wasn't fair when you both ignored me through my divorce and then acted confused when I stopped picking up. You never wanted me. You wanted my account balance." Through the window, I caught Elisa's eye. She gave me that silent need back. "Up. Look." I gave her a tiny shake of the head. I had it handled. "I'm happy now," I said, and meant it. "I've got a career I built myself, a woman who loves me for more than what I can offer, and friends who don't view my presence as a payment plan." My mom's tears were already flowing. "Please, don't do this. We can fix it." "I'm not doing anything," I replied. "I'm just done financing my own disrespect." Melissa finally snapped, voice sharp. "So that's it. You're going to leave us struggling, while you sit in that fancy house, living like a king. And there it was, the real reason for their visit. Not love, not reconciliation, just one more pitch. I smiled, cold and steady. You didn't want me when I offered love. You wanted what I could give. Now you get nothing. I turned toward the door, but my dad reached out and grabbed my arm, reflexive, desperate. Dave, please. We're your family. I pulled my arm free. No, Elise is my family. The people inside, my people, they show up when it matters. You're just people I used to know. I walked back inside and locked the door behind me. And through the glass, I watched them stand there, silent, awkward, out of moves. They looked pissed, not hurt. Pissed because their access had been revoked. Elise met me in the hallway. You okay? I wrapped my arms around her and smiled. Never better. I went back to the grill, grabbed the tongs, and got back to cooking. My people were laughing in the backyard. Real people, the kind who didn't see me as a withdrawal option. Through the window, I watched my so-called family finally slink off the porch and walk to their car. They looked back, like they were expecting me to cave at the last second. I didn't. As they drove off, I felt nothing but relief. That was the last performance. Curtain down. That Easter Sunday, while they were probably sitting around a table lamenting the selfish son and the cold brother, I was surrounded by laughter, smoked brisket, and actual respect. The people around me didn't need my money, just my time, my jokes, my presence. Later that night, while Elise and I cleaned up, she asked, "Any regrets?" I thought for a second, then shook my head. Not one. Some people think blood makes you family. I learned it doesn't. Behavior does. Boundaries do. I looked around at our home, paid for, peaceful mine. The Ducati parked in the garage. The smell of smoked meat still lingering in the air. The best revenge wasn't just living well, it was living free. They could see my life through the glass now, but they'd never be part of it again. The next morning, I fired up the Ducati. Elise was right behind me, helmet in hand. A few minutes later, we were cruising up the coast. Nowhere to be, no one to answer to, no fake emergencies, no guilt. Just the hum of the engine, fresh air, and peace.